afternoon and welcome to the Law and Crime Network. I'm Angelica Spanos. Thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon. We are still following the Rosenbaum's trial in Georgia. It is day 8 there, and this is the murder trial for Jennifer and Joseph, the couple accused of abusing and killing their 2-year-old foster child, Layla Marie Daniel. The foster mother, Jennifer, said she choked on a piece of chicken, but an autopsy report revealed she died of blunt force trauma to her abdomen that ruptured her pancreas. The state has had countless medical experts and witnesses so far, and what they say about the injuries on Layla's body have told a much different story. The defense is arguing that Layla's death was an accident and that her injuries resulted from the life-saving measures that Jennifer tried, including attempting to do the Heimlich maneuver. The court right now is in a break for lunch. When they come back live, we will take you there. But this is going to give us a chance right now to go back and listen to some of the testimony. We want to play you the lead detective, Sergeant Eris Thompson. He was on the stand yesterday. Let's hear what he said. All right, so we are going to talk about this investigator. With us today to do that and break this all down is Joseph Scott Morgan, forensic death investigator. Joseph, always a pleasure to have you here.
Good to be with you.
We want to bring up something new because this is what we saw yesterday and also this morning. The state played a video of Jennifer Rosenbaum's police interview, and this happened after Layla's death, and basically she described the supposed choking incident to the Henry County detectives, and this was all recorded and they played it in court. What happened is she told the detectives that Layla had broken her leg at a gymnastics center and had fallen off of a bed while she was playing around the house. But we later saw that employees at the gymnastics center testified that Layla was never enrolled in a class there. So we have all these accounts of these injuries and bruises on her and the places that the Rosenbaums are claiming these happened. But basically, so far, if you go down the line, everyone has disproved that. So there's a lot of inconsistencies here. But from when you would know about this so far and you having your background of what you have, speak a little bit to her injuries, her bruises, maybe the delay in the treatment there, and how some of them seemingly were obviously older and not fresh.
Yeah, it's striking, isn't it? I think probably one of the most troubling things that I read along the way regarding this was the fact that Rosenbaum had stated that this little angel had fallen into a hole in the back or on the property of the gymnasium where she was allegedly taking gymnastics and had snapped her leg. And one of the things that kind of came forward for me, I think it was a pediatric physician had stated that, why would somebody wait 2 days to treat this? And he also made a remark that this break that she had was not indicative of, say, kind of a torsion injury where the leg actually kind of twist around and breaks, which you'll see these are green stick fractures and these sorts of things. Children's bones are a bit more malleable. He stated that this fracture in the leg specifically was consistent with something you see in blunt force trauma, which, that requires a force that is driven into that specific area that facilitates the snapping of the bone at mid shaft. And the pain that this child must have been in was just absolutely unbearable. I can only imagine.
Yeah, that's really tough, especially listening to a lot of these people testify. Yep. We've had the medical examiner, we've had some nurses, a nurse practitioner that also looked at her sister, Millie, and the injuries they have listed have been quite hard to hear for us here, and really for any of you all listening to this. One of the things that we often see with abusers is the potential of people going around town and kind of taking the victims here to different doctors. We don't necessarily have, proof of that going on, but we do know that she waited, and like you said, there was delays here. Speak to that a little.
Yeah, one of the things you see in child abuse, just one of the little things that you look for is something that's called doctor shopping. And that is that the abuser who has total and complete charge of the child's life and their treatment and just providing for them, these individuals will migrate around to different facilities where they can kind of offer up an alternative explanation without being held to task. Now, I don't necessarily know if this happened, but what I do know is that this child had multiple injuries that this child had sustained over a protracted period of time. And we also had several people along the way that have talked about how the injuries were older. And this gives us, these are kind of little breadcrumbs that you follow as a child abuse investigator. As this gentleman that was just on the stand, he's doing a fantastic job, by the way, of talking about what he saw. He suspected child abuse.
All right, well, let's listen to more of what the lead detective has to say on the stand. Thanks, Joseph. All right, so again, that was the lead detective there, Eris Thompson. He talks more about these injuries and things that they said happened, that she fell on her face and smashed her nose, that even at one point she potentially was kicked. Joseph, these type of injuries, how do these, obviously, these are children, these are tiny bodies. They are not the same as adult, full-grown people. How does that differ here, and what does that make injuries more easy to be spotted and seen?
Well, yeah, it can, because their bodies are so delicate in many ways. We're at a young age, we're kind of protected to a certain degree because our bones are more malleable and these sorts of things. But it's also, you have to take into consideration that the individual child is very delicate as well, that they don't have the same protection, say layers of tissue upon layers of tissue. Their bones are not quite as strong as ours are. Even their brains developmentally are not literally as firmed up, if you will, as say an adult. So they're subject to more trauma because they are very fragile. And the detective is going some distance to demonstrate this, at least verbally, and talk about what he's witnessing here.
Yeah, and he mentions a lot of bruises and scars that were present at the autopsy. You know this from your experience. What happens when someone goes to do an autopsy? What are they looking for? What are kind of the points that they're trying to obviously record and ingest and figure out?
Well, let's just talk about contusions, which is a fancy word for bruising. One of the things that you'll look for, one of the things that we do at the morgue and at the medical examiner's office is called aging of injuries. And all of us, I can tell you, everyone in the audience has experienced a contusion at some point in time. You know that as you get further and further down the timeline from the moment that injury happened, the bruise literally begins to change color. It goes from kind of a bright red to initial impact, then it darkens up, and then as we go down, it'll actually turn a yellow color, then a green color, and then it dissipates. Well, each one of those markers along that healing that our body is trying to do, each one of those colors is associated with a time frame. So let's say, for instance, we have a yellow bruise, we have a green bruise, we have a black bruise, we have a red bruise, and they're all in the same person. You know that these events are not connected to the same event, that these are not desperate, but these are separate events that have occurred along the timeline over a period of time, at least long enough for them to get into healing mode, if you will.
All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break right now on Law and Crime. Stay with us, though. Plenty more when we come back about the Rosenbaum trial.